Good morning, Professor. I'm Ashura Shrestha, and we are Group 2, and we are the 5 member Majinder Kaur, Samika Richwa, Srinin Hassan, Jinabel Manubai Patel, and me, myself, Ashura Shrestha. And we are here to give you the presentation on the article topic Data Privacy and Social Media. Moving forward to the table of content, um, we have divided into four parts: introduction, evaluation, analysis, and conclusion. In the introduction part, we'll be talking about emerging technology and the applicable legal and ethical consideration. In the evaluation part, we'll be talking about pros and cons of emerging technology based on the legal and ethical frame. In the analysis part, we'll be talking about legal and ethical consideration and evaluation and emerging technology. And the conclusion part, we'll be sharing about what we learned and the feedback we gained. Yeah, thank you.
Welcome everyone. Today we will be discussing about the importance of data privacy and in social media and how emerging technologies like Internet of Things are impacting privacy protection. With the rapid development of technology, ensuring the privacy of user personal data has become a critical issue. When using social media, through the various studies, researchers have explored different aspects of data privacy, revealing that trust in platform, perceived benefits and risk, and users' control over the personal information are the key factors. In this presentation, we will discuss about the privacy protection perspective and use of social media and emerging technologies, raising concerns about privacy, legal and ethical considerations, and pros and cons of evaluation of emerging technology.
Hi, Professor. I'm Shamika, and today I'll be presenting on the ethical and the pros of the emerging technologies and the ethical and legal framework of it all. So, while doing my research, I did find a few pros um, with social media as well as the legal and the ethical framework of it. So, one of the first pro that I was able to identify was the terms and condition and privacy policies. And we noticed that many social media companies are asking their users now to be able to consent to these terms and agreement, right? So these terms and agreements are specify different privacy aspects prior to signing up. So, for example, Twitter is one specific example, and in their policy and in their privacy policy, Twitter describes how consumers' information will be used, how their information will be shared with third parties, and how by sharing this information they'll be able to assist Twitter in bettering their platform for both consumers as well as for the business itself, right? So Twitter is able to share information with Google Analytics, and then Google Analytics is in turn able to assist Twitter in making changes that are necessary to improve customer experience. So they will next jump to the COPA Act, which is the Children Online Policy Protection Act of 1998. Sorry, and this was passed in the United States, in which parents are now given control. Parents would have to consent to having their child's information being stored on a website, right? Parents are now the websites are now requiring that the parents give consent so that the children's data is not stored for any extended period of time and it's not being used for any future use, etc. All right, secondly, we'll talk about the California Consumer Protection Act, CCP, of 2018. And while this act doesn't necessarily speak to social media directly, it does speak to profitable company that are using in terms of how they collect information about Californian consumers, and that the consumers have the right to have their information deleted. They have the right to opt out of sale pitches or anything related to marketing which they do not want their private information to be used or collected in any form of way. And this can be linked to social media. Again, we can see how many companies do share consumers' information on social media to third parties, and California is one such state in which there's protection around how the information is stored and how the information can be used for a consumer. And then finally, we can talk about the social media, their data mining benefits. Now, with social media, there's a wealth of information that can be grabbed from there, whether it's demographic data that can be used in making decisions for like policymakers, etc. This information is very useful in terms of advertising, government usage. It has its benefits, but it also has its drawbacks, right? So the thing with social media, while the data sometimes may be inaccurate when you compare it to a polling service, right? The thing with social media provides timely data, and that's something that a polling service cannot compare to. With polling, you're looking at months, even years to garner such a big company, for example, such as the US, where you have 300 million persons to be able to poll such a wide population. That takes time. And with social media provides government and policymakers with information and data that is really readily available. I mean, within a span of a few hours, they're able to capture and grab these information that can be useful in terms of some policies that governments make and marketing decisions, etc. So these are just a few of the pros with social media and the legal and the ethical framework around it. There is more to be discussed in my presentation. Thank you so much, and enjoy the rest of your day.
Evolution of corns of emerging technologies and legal framework. Number 1 is identity fraud through data harvesting. To take someone's name, scammers don't need a lot of information. They need individual's password, their location, their email ID, the telephone number, and they can use that information for phishing schemes against that users. The reason why people don't take privacy and data security seriously and value it is because they have not personally encountered a breach, a cyber attack, and they underestimate the worth of privacy on social media as they're unaware of the repercussions that it can cause. Individuals value immediate and concrete aspects of privacy more than others, for example, like identity theft. The second con is the loopholes in the privacy setting. Social media accounts are not as private as people think that they are. Social media privacy options do not offer obvious ways to control personal information and are not very user-friendly. We have learned through studies that only 22% of people actually read the privacy policy or terms and conditions before accepting it. Facebook privacy policy, for example, is 5,850 words, which is longer than the length of US Constitution. It has about 50 buttons to choose from, 170 options to navigate through to manage your privacy. Yes, with over time, they have improved their control settings, but users still do not and cannot manage their privacy and control their confidential informations. Number 3, harassment and cyberbullying. Without having access to a person's account, malicious player can send threatening messages and can cause emotional damage. Doxing is a type of cyberbullying in which offenders share confidential details like victims' location, their cell phone number with an intent to harm them. They incite others to torment this individual. An example of Cambridge Analytica affair, which exposed the personal information of approximately 87 million people who use Facebook globally, have prompted ethical discussions about users' online privacy. Number 4, settings for location. Location systems may still monitor the user's whereabouts. There are many methods to target a device position by tracking web pages, cellular towers, the public Wi-Fi that the cell phone is connected to, even if the location settings is disabled on your social media settings. If the user's location is merged with personal data, the user's profile can contain correct information. and this data can be used by malicious users to find out more about users' online activities or to directly identify them. Con number 5: privacy concern and social media fatigue. Self regulation is necessary for protecting personal information. If users don't cease using social media sites or limit their use, privacy concerns will add to social media fatigue. Two specific explanations linking social media wariness and privacy worries are: privacy concerns can restrict users' thinking space while using social media, which causes social media exhaustion. And number two, users of social media with high privacy concerns have more likely to experience worry over their use of social media. Users of big social media platforms like Facebook are moving to smaller platforms where they are more likely to browse rather than interact with the content like posting and sharing.
Thanks, Shireen. Social media has several benefits, including the ability to connect with others easily and quickly. However, it also poses certain challenges and potential drawbacks that needs to be addressed because the experience can turn out to be unpleasant and harmful sometimes. So let's address all those ethical considerations that needs to be carefully evaluated. Number one, balancing freedom and privacy on social media platforms. The collection and use of personal data without users' consent can be a violation of their privacy. Users may not be aware of the extent of data collection or how the data is being used. Despite expressing concerns about their online privacy, many consumers still willingly share their personal data in exchange for online services and products. This paradox is evident even among individuals who prioritize privacy and use social networking services like Facebook to share a considerable amount of personal information. Studies have shown that even sensitive information such as sexual orientation can be inferred from Facebook likes and facial images. Additionally, recent data breaches like Cambridge Analytica scandal have ignited ethical debates around online privacy. As data privacy becomes increasingly important and regulated globally, implementing laws like California's Consumer Privacy Act, Japan's Act on Protection of Personal Information, GDPR, could enable us the safe use of social media data in conservation science. Number two, deceptive information on social media, post alterations and manipulations. One common issue faced by social media users is the lack of mechanism to verify content before sharing it. This can be problematic when the content portrays an individual or an establishment in a negative light. Often users receive such content from their family, friends, or colleagues and share it without verifying its authenticity. This poses a risk as the content may have been maliciously altered and the user may unknowingly contribute to defaming others. Even if the content is authentic, sharing it without considering the impact it may have on others raises ethical concerns about the user's behavior. In essence, the fundamental principle of ethical conduct requires users to be cautious before sharing any content that portrays someone or something in a negative light. Number three, balancing user privacy and data usage on social media platforms. Users should have the right to manage and control how their personal data is utilized, and social media platforms must respect this right to act ethically. However, privacy policies and data sharing agreements can be complicated, which can make it challenging for users to make informed decisions about their data usage. Social media companies have taken advantage of this complexity to collect consumer data without providing adequate protection. This lack of transparency and understanding around privacy policies is a significant concern, as users should have the right to understand and manage how their personal data is utilized by social media companies. Companies must provide a clear and accessible privacy policies, data sharing agreements, and ensure the users are informed about any changes made to these policies. Number four, the interdependence of privacy and security in the digital age. Data theft is a serious concern as it can be caused by unauthorized third party for malicious activities such as criminal or political purposes. In the context of illegal wildlife trade, data collected from social media platforms must be handled with caution to prevent misuse by criminal groups who may use the information to identify areas for illegal harvesting of species. Hence, it's important for social media platforms to take steps to keep the users' data safe. This can include many things like users might have to go through multiple steps to log in, like OTP, keeping data encrypted so it's hard to steal, and regularly updating security features. Additionally, these platforms should work together with law enforcement agencies to identify and prosecute individuals who engage in data theft. Number 5, the consequences of social media data misuse. Social media platforms have a responsibility to protect the personal data of their users and ensure that it's not misused to cause harm to individuals or groups. One real-world example of the harm caused by the use of personal data by social media platforms is the Cambridge Analytica scandal. In 2018, it was revealed that the political consulting firm had obtained data from tens of millions of Facebook users without their consent and used their data to target political advertising during the 2016 US presidential elections. This scandal highlighted how personal data can be misused to create filter bubbles and spread misinformation. Cambridge Analytica reportedly used data to create psychographic profile of users, which can then be used to target political ads to specific groups of people with the aim of influencing their voting behavior. This scandal led to increased scrutiny of social media platforms and their use of personal data and sparked a wider debate about the ethical responsibilities of these platforms in relation to data privacy. It also highlighted the need for increased transparency and regulation to ensure the users are aware of how the data is being used and that platforms are held accountable for any misuse of their data. So that's all about the ethical consideration of social media and privacy. Now let's dive into the legal considerations of social media and privacy, which would be continued by Aishwarya. So that's all about the ethical consideration of social media and privacy. Now let's dive into the legal considerations of social media and privacy, which would be continued by Aishwarya.
I'm Ashura Shrestha and I will be explaining the legal consideration of the social media and privacy. So first we have the celebrity endorsement. So what is celebrity endorsement? It is the effective marketing strategy which is used to increase the product sale and improve the brand awareness through the celebrity endorsement. So misrepresenting the celebrity endorsement it can have the negative effect. So hence we need to have a clear disclosure between the endorser and the business, which need to follow the guidelines of the Federal Trade Commission for using the endorsement of the celebrity in advertising. So there can be also the legal action may arise, like the false advertising, trade infringement, defamation may also arise it. So similarly, we have second is compliance with the data protection law. So this law exists to protect the privacy of the people and protecting the personal data of the people. So to ensure that the personal data of the people are protected, so we have the data protection law, that is GDPR, that is General Data Protection Regulation, which came into effect in the European Union in 2018. So this data protection law it preserves the people's right to privacy and guarantee that their data is protected and processed fairly. And then we have 3 is the offensive content. So what means offensive content is like offensive contents, it offends the people and companies to the legal risks. The content that is illegal and that violates the social media privacy should not be posted in the websites and in the social media, and it need to be removed from the social or brand if that offensive content violates the law. So the legal action against this harassment and hate speech, discrimination can be taken as well, and compensation for this emotional distress can be taken as well. So we have 4 is the data control. So data control means the information storage, preservation, deletion policies and procedure are the regulation that are applicable in this data protection law. So this regulation helps to lower the likelihood of the storing the personal data for longer than is necessary. Like if we are collecting the data for the marketing campaign, so it can be we can erase that after 3 months. So for the certain time we can collect that, and we can erase after that. So through that, the person in that period, the personal information need to be stored, and they need to be properly safeguarded in that period. And similarly, we have the 5 is the provide attributes. So what is that means? Social media guidelines need to be followed properly. The policy and procedures should be properly followed while uploading the content in the social media, like paying attention to copyright and trademark regulations, and also the third parties peoples, you know, and mostly we need to follow the policy and that protect the consumer privacy, and we also need to ensure that without the consent of any individual, we should not post anything in the social media, and any information should not be shared. And then we have 6 is security measure. So preventing the data from the data breaches and unauthorized access, and disclosure of the personal information can be prevented by following the security measure like encryption. We have the encryption. So encryption where the data is converted into unreadable format with the key. And then we have access control by giving the access, preventing the access, and limit the access to the personal information by two-factor authorization and role-based authentication and role-based access control as well. And then we have the data backup, so which we store the data, like making a copies and storing the data for a future purpose. Like if there are certain data breaches, and this data backup helps to get the helps to prevent from the data losses, right? And we have the consumer rating. So what is consumer rating? Is like consumer provide their feedback in the social media by expressing the satisfaction and dissatisfaction. So as the company reputation is impacted by these satisfaction and dissatisfaction feedback by the negative and positive comment of the consumer. So the company reputation need to be maintained by giving the bad reviews, by responding them in a properly, by responding the unfavorable customer feedback properly. So yeah, this is it. Thank you.
Now we will discuss about evaluation of emerging technologies. Social media has become an essential aspect of modern life, but as its use of continues to rise, concerns about the data privacy have emerged. In this, we will explore several factors that influence data privacy in context of social media. One of the primary concerns is a lack of transparency and in data collection and research usage. To address this, researchers must obtain informed consent from the users before collecting and utilizing their data for research purposes. Another significant concern is potential identification of individuals through this social media data. Researchers that anonymize the data by removing all the identifiable information before using it for the research purposes. Factors that influence users' privacy protections behavior are their level of privacy concern and trust in social media platforms. Users who have a high level of concern about their privacy are more likely to take necessary steps to protect their information. The use of social media data for conservation science raises significant privacy concerns, and conservation scientists must obtain informed consent and work with local communities and authorities to mitigate potential risk. Data breaches has become more common, and social media platforms must take steps to ensure that users' personal information is protected and they are promptly notified in the event of data breach. Government around the world introducing regulations to protect users' personal information. As per the researchers and policymakers must understand the impact of these regulations on data privacy and continue to advocate for the strong privacy protections. As social media platforms continues to evolve and the landscape of the data privacy will continue to change, researchers must stay up to date with these developments and work with the anticipate and addressing emerging data privacy concerns. Thank you.
So the moving forward to the conclusion part, the privacy concern on social media is one of the major issues and growing day by day. So all the marketer, third-party companies, the policymaker, and the government, they need to be open, transparent, honest about how they use and handle the consumer data to maintain the trust through the sound data management of the consumer data. So yeah, so the company need to be transparent enough and honest enough, and so that they communicate the data with one another about the privacy practices. And yeah, thank you, Professor. This is it.